away more than you expected. This is what we want. We want a little ripple effects. We want to bring that, like I said before, it's the She-Preneur female energy directed for you. Now the second half, obviously I half kind of introduced this lady here, she's coming up. She is our business She-Preneur. She was a lawyer. Now if any of you are a bit worried about contacting someone that's got a very high profession, speak to this lady afterwards. She thrives on detail and she's absolutely bursting with energy to guide you through the business side of what we have to offer. Please put your hands together and a warm, beautiful welcome to our beautiful Sarah Topham. Shout!
Hi guys, I met you one day. This is fun, isn't it? So, my name is Sarah. We've had some amazing speakers happening. We've really started to understand a lot about the product, and it's going to be my pleasure to talk through the business side, because we're all here also to have a look at how we can really leverage this incredible product and this really timely part of the industry that we're a part of. So, to get started, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my background. I was a corporate lawyer, and I had a typical 9-to-5 contract. Louder?
Yeah.
Now, you don't expect to work 9 to 5 in law. I wasn't that naive, but I didn't expect to be working from 7 o'clock in the morning until 11 o'clock at night. And so I was working a 90-hour work week, 16-hour days, and I found myself sitting at my desk thinking, you know what, there's got to be a little bit more to life than this. Has anyone else felt like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was not just the hours, it was the kind of energy that I was surrounded by. Anybody else love all of their colleagues, or you happy to kind of get out here? I was one of those people. They're not people that I would have socialised with, and whilst the equity partners were making a great income, their skin was grey. You know, there was no energy behind their eyes. They lived on black coffee the entire time, massively unhealthy. They were on holiday, I could get hold of them within about 15 minutes, and I thought, I just don't want this to be my life. But if nothing changes, nothing changes. Okay. And so this industry is something that hasn't just really transformed my health, it's given me a huge lifeline out of a career that I thought I was on just a rinse and repeat cycle with. So I'm really excited to talk a little bit about the business and how we actually get into this, how we can really leverage all of this. And I'm going to talk initially about some really big problems that we have in the world, because as well as our health being in decline, we're also really struggling from a financial standpoint. And so if we look at some of these statistics from just the UK alone, is anyone shocked to know that our national average disposable income is £200? I was really shocked when I saw that. And actually I did a poll on LinkedIn not so long ago, asking people how much extra they would need per month to give them a little bit of breathing space. £200 was what was the most popular answer. And that shocked me. I was thinking people are going to come in with £1,000 a month or £5 a month and, you know, really kind of get some traction in their life, but actually it was £200. Money is the #1 cause of stress in the UK. Has anyone ever felt financially stressed? I have. It's hard, isn't it? I've had money, I've not had money. Having money is much more fun. 87% of people said that if they could make more money, it would improve their well-being. So this is a really interesting question for all of you guys in here. Who has their own business in the room? Well, a field of entrepreneurs, I love it. Who's employed? Okay. Nice even mix. Ask yourself if you've got the ability to actually make more money with what you're doing right now. Because for me as a lawyer, we build every single 6 minutes of the day. And so whilst there was, you know, obviously only a certain amount of hours in a day, I couldn't make any more. I was salaried. There was a cap to what I could earn. And so this is a really interesting just thought process just from the ability of actually making more money. 85% of people are dissatisfied with their jobs. That was me. You know, I literally used to find myself thinking, how have I worked this hard to only have this kind of level of lifestyle? It was rubbish. 1/4 of UK adults have got no savings at all. And actually the rest of the statistic is that they didn't even have £100 in savings. So let's let that sink in. When we think about the people who are around us, who we can offer this business to, not just the product line, but the business now, let's think about some of the people that are going to be in our circle that we don't even know about are maybe suffering at this kind of level. And this is really interesting. 67% of UK adults are concerned about how they're going to fund themselves in later life. Now we've got quite a mixture of ages here. When I was in my 20s, I didn't really think that much about my pension. It wasn't anything to get very excited about with my law firm, I have to be honest. But have you guys started to think about that and how you're actually going to fund yourself too? And have you also thought about how much you would like to have per month as a pension? You would like to have at least £2,000 a month as a pension. Keep your hand up if you'd like more. Who thinks that you would struggle to survive on £2,000 a month? Okay. Do you know how much you'd have to have in a pension pot to have £2,000 a month? You're looking at about £500,000. And the average person doesn't have £500,000 in a pension pot. And so this is such a very real solution to a number of different areas of our finances when we start to have a look at this business. And so the solution of network marketing, direct sales, multi-level marketing, whatever you've heard it called before, it's all exactly the same thing. And I want to really just bash through some myths of this industry, because there's so many people who are a little bit fearful of this industry actually. And fear can stop us from achieving so much in life, you know, and I want to help you to understand exactly what this industry is. This is an industry that is worth 201 billion. Now we're going to hear some huge figures. There's going to be some big numbers on the slides here. But 201 billion, do you have an idea that that's actually bigger than the music and the film industry combined? 201 billion, when we look at all of the companies who operate like this, who move their products in the same way that we do, this is a huge industry, and yet people are still a little bit worried about it, or it's an industry that operates a little bit differently from my traditional business or my corporate job or the way that I've been conditioned to things. This is an environment for you guys to also start to switch your mindset a little bit when we start to think about how we can make money and what that looks like. But when we have a look at the wellness segment of that, that accounts to 34% of that 201 billion. Do we think we're starting to be in the right place at the right time? We've got an industry that's worth more than some very safe industries. You know, you feel very confident saying, well, I'm in the film industry, right? You're very safe feeling that you're in the music industry, and yet when we come to look at direct sales, people are like, oh, I'm a little bit fearful of that. It works a little bit differently. This is also an incredibly tightly, what's the word? We're really tightly governed in direct sales. You know, this isn't an industry that is, you know, left to a bunch of cowboys. This isn't the wild, wild west, even though I've got cowboy boots on today. You know, it's really tightly managed. You know, this isn't almost kind of as tightly governed as the accountancy industry, as the legal industry. You know, if I put a foot out of line with my law firm, I would have really, really stringent penalties for that. That's exactly the same with direct sales. You know, don't think that any company can come into this arena and do whatever it wants. That's not how it works. I mean, that's kind of back in the day where we've moved on a lot further now. 71% of people in this incredible industry are women. And we're obviously talking about the preventative healthcare market. You've heard Jacqueline talk about some incredible statistics, pretty worrying statistics, right? But the preventative healthcare market, which is really where I think we need to be focused. Let's not wait until we're starting to see symptoms show up. But preventative healthcare, look at that, what that was valued at, 280 billion with a B, guys, you know? This is projected to reach 760 billion by 2032. And so again, whilst we're looking at the preventative areas of our healthcare, let's also look at the preventative areas of our financial health. Let's not wait until we're at retirement age wondering how we're going to fund it. Let's start looking at ways that we can get things you know, in place now and be smart with our time, because the time's going to pass anyway. I promise you. If you don't start today, you know, a year down the line, you're going to be thinking, what if I just started a little bit from that event that I went to, you know, back in May? And I want to share a little bit of my story with this, because when I was in that law firm, and I had made a mental decision to remove myself from the kind of levels of toxicity that I was experiencing there, I fell into direct sales. I wasn't actually even directly pitched for this industry. This isn't the first company that I've been with another two. And let me tell you, American privately owned companies compared to European publicly traded ones, which is what we are, they are worlds apart. Worlds apart. I mean, we know America to Europe are very different anyway from what we know about just the way that their food is produced, right? But the way they manage their companies are also very, very different. My experience with Zinzino has been like night and day compared to the other ones. So I knew that this was an industry that I wanted to be in, but I'd fallen into it initially. I built it up alongside my legal work. Now, working 90 hours a week, you don't get a lot of spare time from that, trust me. I used to finish it at 11 o'clock at night, and I would literally go to bed, my alarm went off at 4:45 every morning, I'd walk the dog, and then I'd have to get into the office. But I knew that if I didn't create some kind of leverage, I was only ever going to be getting paid from my own productivity. And so that's something else that I want you guys to think about is whose actions are you actually getting paid on? And we're going to start to look at this in a little bit later through my discussion today. But start to think about, are you only getting paid on your own activity, or have you managed to create some kind of leverage? If you're a business owner and you've got people working for you, that's fantastic. If you're investing, you've got money working for you, that's also fantastic. But have you got some kind of leverage? Because I didn't, again, as a lawyer. And so I'd started my first business, and I remember completing on one of the biggest deal that I actually did, and we finished signing contracts at about 2 o'clock in the morning. It was December. Driving rain, coming back, you can picture the scene. It was kind of one of those dreadful times where you think, I just want to get to bed. And I was in the middle of nowhere, my sat-nav wasn't quite working, it took me a little bit of time to get back. And so getting home at about 2:30 in the morning, knowing I had to be back in the office at 7 a.m, still a bit exhausted. So I went back in the next day thinking, my bosses were going to be absolutely thrilled that I had completed this big deal, and they were friends of mine as well, I have to say. My clients I was very, very close with. And there was one signature page that had just been stuck together, and so I missed the signature just on one little initial that I had to get. It's no biggie. I'll be straight back out there again the next day to get it signed for. But instead of my bosses being absolutely thrilled that this deal had got over the line, and I'm sure that you guys can appreciate maybe a feeling of not being valued and not being thanked for how hard you work. You guys know what my boss said to me, the managing partner of the company. He said, Sarah, I heard that everything had got signed, you kind of mostly did it, but there's a signature missing. And I said, yeah, I'm heading out there today. And he said to me, well, you can't use what God never gave you. And I thought, right, okay, that's really made things clear for me. So I didn't respond, I thanked him. I walked straight into HR and I hand wrote my resignation, and I handed it in that day. Had I not have had a network marketing business that had pretty much replaced my income by that time, I wouldn't have had the choice to do that. And so what we're talking about today isn't just an incredible product line and an amazing industry. This is the ability for you to actually own your own life and your own time, because whatever reason you're here for today, a number of you are going to be thinking totally different things behind that. Some of you are going to be thinking, do you know what, money's a little bit tight right now. I need to create more. Some of you are going to be thinking, I want my time back. That was me. I had no time. Some of you are going to be thinking, I like this room. This is a community that I want to be a part of. Some of you are going to be thinking that you want to build a legacy. There's so many reasons for all of you as to why you're here. But I want to encourage you all to think about the choices that you currently have. And if you could maybe expand your thinking to have greater ones. And so when I was looking for a company and really looking at who I was going to properly partner with, who I was going to be really aligned with, because that's important as well, isn't it? If we're going to be talking about a product with passion and integrity, and also a company, we need to feel aligned. Who feels totally aligned with what they're doing right now outside of Zinzino? Hands up. Some of you, okay. We can improve on that, guys. My hand wouldn't have gone up as a lawyer either. I'd have thought, oh my God, get me out of here. But I was looking for a number of things to feel totally aligned with the company. First of all, the company is a massive thing. Of course, we've got to have massive belief in the company. Now, when we look at what Zinzino is, who they are, this is a Scandinavian publicly traded biotech company, which is 20 years old now. We are not a startup. We are incredibly well established, and yet I'm sure that most of you have probably never heard of Zinzino before you were introduced to it. I hadn't. I had no idea that they existed. I wish I did know about them before. I would have got in even earlier. So the company and what it stands for, the owners, the integrity of them. You know, wait until you guys go to our annual event in Oslo that we have in October this year, and you listen to the founders speak, and you hear their vision and what they're coming out with, their research and development. Jacqueline alluded to us having a supersonic test that we've got coming out. You know, we are 5+ years ahead of any other test-based nutrition company that may try and copy us. You know, understand what you are a part of here. Then when it comes to the product offering, I didn't want to be selling a protein shake or a lipstick. Nothing against people who are doing those things, but I wanted to be partnered with a company who had a measurable product, actually, not just an anecdotal one. I wanted to be making a difference to people's lives in a very certain way where I could literally see the differences. And so, of course, the product ticked all of those boxes. The compensation plan needs to be one that attracts people who want to make a little bit of money. You know, there'll be some of you in this room who £200 to £500 a month will be sufficient for you guys, and that's okay. We're going to meet you where you're at, and this is very much open for you. There's also going to be people in this room who's never had the ability to earn a 6-figure income. And so this compensation plan is right for you guys too. There might be some of you that dream even bigger than that, and you're thinking 7 and 8 figures. Great, you know, totally change the trajectory of your family lineage with this company. And also then when it comes to the leadership, I mean, haven't we seen some incredible women already today? I mean, look at the leadership that you guys can be a part of. But it's a certainty, it is consistent leadership, it's heart-led leadership, it's people who really hold space for you for when you're ready. You know, I haven't been the fastest grower in this business. I haven't broken any records, but you're going to hear from Shan a little bit later today, and every time I've been going for a promotion, I've moved into her house with her husband. Much to Dave's disapproval.
True story.
Last month we had a 197% growth in my business. I spent a week at her house. This is what we do.
Our house.
You know. So think about, you know, who you're actually aligning with. There's lots of different companies in this industry. 201 billion. You've got a massive choice, but there is one that is the best, that is consistent, and that is going above and beyond any other company. You're going to start to understand why as we go through. But having a look at any kind of business, if we were going to be opening up a shoe shop or even a bakery, we would want to understand, is there market for the products that we're putting out to the market, right? Is there going to be people there who want to buy the products that I have? And so I want to bring you back to this. Now, you've seen this slide before from a point of view of, wow, look how many people are out of balance. Super, super scary. But I also want to encourage you guys to look at this global map as a way of understanding wealth creation. Now, whenever we look at wealth creation and companies who have achieved that, these are companies who have identified a need in society, would you agree? And then plugs the gap of that need. So if we look at the greats right now, the Netflix, the Ubers, the Airbnb, the Amazons, it's not that any of those companies or those offerings didn't exist before, but they've been disrupted. They've disrupted those industries, they've done it a little bit better. And so when I first saw this, I thought 97% of the people that I know need the product that I have my hands on. That is wealth creation, but on an even greater scale. You know, if we knew what we know now about Netflix and Amazon, all those other companies I've just mentioned, would we have bought shares in them 20 years ago? Yeah. I would have done 100%. Zinzino is a publicly traded company. We're going to be talking about shares soon. Again, we're going to be looking at some really, really big figures, but I first want to show you how we actually practically run this business and how we get started, because this is fun, this is work for us, and it doesn't ever really feel like work for me. Again, last day of the month, I think our day started in Shannon and Dave's house at 7:45 in the morning. It finished about 8:45 at night, and we were high on life afterwards. I wouldn't have felt high on life when I finished my legal day. I was exhausted. I couldn't wait to get home. So, what are our first steps, and how are we going to show you exactly what to do? Who would like to earn a £2,200 bonus? Yeah. How cool would it feel if you were told you could do that and achieve that as quickly as you wanted to? Even more cool, right? There's no ceiling on what you can earn here. We specifically have a compensation plan where you decide how much you would like to earn. But the Fast Start plan is to teach you how to provoke the correct activities in your business to get the most out of our compensation plan, so that there's not one single pound left on the table for you with the activity that you're doing. So the first step that we're going to teach you how to do is how to connect 4 products, just 4, to your account. Okay, so this isn't even 4 customers. These are 4 product subscriptions. Now, after everything that Jacqueline has said, after hearing from Sue and what the product has done for her and those great testimonials, do you think you at least know 4 people who might like to understand their cellular health and to take a test? Maybe reduce their inflammation, maybe start to help them to overcome any kind of health challenges. I'm sure you guys do. I know you all do. You certainly know people who are going to the gym. You know people who are trying to get pregnant. You know people who have just had a baby. You know all of these different people. There's not one single person in the world who shouldn't be taking one of these tests. That's the reality of it. So we connect 4 products to your account. We have a €100 bonus for that. We're a Scandinavian company, so I'm going to be switching between euros and pounds. It's about £90 for us for that. But this is step number 1 in creating that bonus for you. And the reason we want to help you to make this bonus is, of course, we want to help you to have a product story. That's why you're going to be using the products yourself. All of these speakers today have got a product story because they use the products. And that's why they come across as so authentic, so genuine, so full of passion when they talk about it, because we're all a product of the products. But we also want to help you to make money, because if we're not making money, that really greases the wheels of productivity in the business. If we're not making money, if you're not seeing it come through, maybe your motivation is going to get a little bit lower. And so my intention, whenever I enroll somebody new in the business, whether they need money or not, it's my job to make them or help them to make money as quickly as possible, because I know it buys me more time of them being highly motivated within the business. So we help you to attach 4 products. Then we're going to help you to enroll 2 people. Do you guys think that you all know 2 people who would like to earn €2,500 or £2,200? Yeah? I mean, when I saw that and how generous that was, and you guys are all going to be amazed at actually how easy this is to move through this Fast Start campaign. But we find 2 other business partners, so not customers now, but 2 other business partners. And so we build 2 sides of the business, and a side A and a side B, and that's going to become evidence later on. But this is now starting to be worth big money for you. This is worth €400 when you enroll these people. And then we're going to duplicate what we do. We're going to help those 2 people. You can see that we've got 2 sets of A and B underneath those A and B. We're going to help those 2 people to simply enroll too. So we're literally teaching them exactly what we're doing. It's a monkey see, monkey do business. It's really, really easy. It's a simple duplication. And so then what we're going to do is we're going to take our 4 products that are connected to our account, and we're going to expand it by 6, and so we have 10 products. Now, what I love about this part of the compensation plan as well is that Zinzino haven't just plucked 10 products out of the air and thought 10 sounds like a nice number. This is an incredibly sophisticated company, an incredibly sophisticated compensation plan. The reason for this, which we're not going to go into in depth with the compensation plan training today, but it's so you can keep on actually earning a double credit bonus after this initial 120-day period. So it's all exactly done so that you can make the most out of the compensation plan yourself. So who thinks that finding 2 people and connecting 10 products to their account is pretty simple? It's a team of 6. A team of 6. If your current employer or your business said, find who would also like to earn over a £2,000 bonus in the next couple of months, and we're going to give you £2,500, you'd be amazed. You know, if I said to my boss, if I could go and find an extra 6 clients, will you give me an extra £2,500? I'd have been absolutely laughed. He probably wouldn't have even said anything to me, would have laughed all the way back to his office. And so again, this is the understanding, the ability of the choices that you have here. So when we look at the Fast Start campaign, you know, this is something that we actually don't see in any other companies. And I'm not here to bash any other company in this industry. We know we all want to lift each other up here. But the reality is you don't earn this kind of money in other companies in our industry. We're incredibly fortunate here. So it goes back to the question that I asked you earlier on, whose efforts do you currently get paid? And this is a big one. You know, we go through our jobs and we think, okay, well, everything's fine until it isn't. But let's really start to understand leverage and what that leverage looks like. This is how we build a business. So, okay, we've got left and right here. Imagine there's A and B that we talked about before. So we're building a left side and a right side of our business. That's really easy. We're then, of course, going to duplicate that. But the person who enrolled you, remember, they're also building a left and a right side of their business too. So we're always going to be sharing one side of the business with the person who enrolled you, okay? And I want to be really clear on this point, because when I first started to understand network marketing, one of the concerns that I had was, I'm working a 90-hour week, I'm not gonna have time. And this is something that you're gonna hear from people all the time. There's gonna be different objections. I don't know enough about direct sales. Is it a safe industry? Well, now you can absolutely talk with confidence about network marketing and how this company is highly regulated, it's a publicly traded company. But when we get any kind of time objection about this, and there'll be some of you here thinking, do I have time to build a business like this? I'm going to show you why you will have time to build a business like this. And if I can in 90 hours a week, I'm pretty confident that everybody else can too. But this whole side of this business is what can be built with your enroller and the rest of the team above you, okay? And so what I mean by that, I'm going to give you a perfect example. I have somebody on the left side of my business, okay? And she enrolled, and she is about 6 weeks into the business. And she has enrolled one other person over here, a couple, which are fantastic people, and they have just started to create their customer base. They're just starting to go through their Fast Start. Now, I'm in full momentum in the business. I'm excited, I'm working on purpose, I'm working with some other people already who we share this entire left side with. So of course, you know, people above here too. Now, what's actually happened with her business is that the other people that have been enrolled, naturally on my left side that I share with her, is that we've brought in an anaesthetist, who's also then started creating a business over here. We've also brought in another couple who have duplicated with 3 other people. We've brought in somebody else down in the south of the UK. I've brought in another person in America, somebody else in Texas. And so when she comes into her back office, she's like, Sarah, how have I got all of this volume? I said, well, this is a team effort. We're creating this together. So you don't actually start from totally at the bottom. And that's what's so different about this compensation plan within Zinzino. It's so collective. And it's a beautiful thing to see. Once you start to understand the way that the money works here, you're going to feel incredibly grateful. So she's coming into her back office, she's seeing volume there. What do you think that does for her self-confidence and her motivation? It's only ever going to go up, right? Because she doesn't feel like she's on her own. What do you think it does for this person, who's off building their business, and I've whacked somebody else from Texas onto there? Because I'm just building my business anyway. I'm not necessarily trying to give them a big leg up. This is just part of the system. And so again, it goes back to the power of leverage that we have here that we just don't see in any other business. Normally, it's a time for money swap. If you're not in front of a client, then you're not getting paid. That was me. That will be the same for many of your professions. Equally, if you're salaried, you can't move past the cap of your salary. So I hope that makes sense. And of course, we can have questions afterwards to understand this. But looking at really what the true scope is here, and again, there's going to be massive figures that are coming up here, figures that you're not going to have been used to seeing in traditional business or in employment. So these are the the ranking system that we work with. So these are monthly figures now. So this is what we can earn as we move through the Zinzino plan. And I want to just take you back to what I was talking about when it came to our pension chat. So no one gets excited about pensions, do they? It's not exactly a fun and exciting topic. But if you could get to the position of here, which is very, very simple to do, and we have people doing this in a couple of months, some people it might take them a year to do. It depends on how motivated you are. But do you think sharing the product line that you've heard be spoken about today, and the pride that you would have being partnered with a company of this kind of caliber, that you'd be confident to share our products with people? I'm guessing everyone will be a resounding yes for that. But do you think that it'd be easier to create a small group of people and show them how to run through the Fast Start campaign in order for you to get somewhere between these £3,000 a month, than it would be to put 500 grand in a pension fund? I mean, it's a no-brainer. I mean, everyone should have a business like this purely for tax write-off reasons. I mean, it's a smart thing to do. So when we look up through here, I mean, of course, when I was a lawyer, I didn't have the ability to make 95 grand a month. That was never a possibility for me. There's going to be a lot of you in the room who are thinking, I don't actually have the ability to make £20,000 a month, or maybe even 17,000 a month, or even 10,000 a month. Because again, it's going to take leverage in order to do that most of the time. You either need to have money working for you or people working for you. So as we scale, it gets pretty exciting. Who's excited by these figures? Yep. Yeah. It becomes so much more than the money when we're involved with something like this, guys. It becomes incredibly mission driven. I'm very financially driven. I'm not afraid to say that at all. I think it is beautiful to become the person that you need to be in order to earn these kinds of ranks, so that you can actually give more, and so you can be more for the people who need you to be more. This is a personal development business as much as a preventative healthcare company. And so what really struck me about Zinzino, bearing in mind I've been in the industry for a little while, is that we have got such a high caliber of individual that's then coming to us at Zinzino. And I want to share why that is. Yes, we've got world-class products. Yes, we've got a pretty stonking compensation plan. We've seen that. We can make £2.5 grand as quickly as we want to. We can scale it beautifully as well. But I want to show you something that really kind of caught my eye, actually, because there's a reason that people will look at Zinzino and will become involved with Zinzino who would never normally touch a direct sales company, where this wouldn't actually float their boat. They wouldn't be excited about it, but they're excited about Zinzino. Do you want to know why that is? Yeah. Guys, come on. So, this is really exciting. So we know that we're a publicly traded company, right? What happens when you get to a higher level in our distribution? So we again, I said we're going to be talking about big figures, right? When we get to president, £43,000 per month, who would like to be earning that? I mean, that's kind of dreamy money, right? I mean, that's freedom. There's going to be a level that you have on here that's going to be your freedom money. And we all have the freedom amount. All of you are thinking about it now. You all got a figure in your heads. Like, don't tell me you've got to think about it, because you all know. So there's a freedom figure for you. But when we get to president, which, by the way, is only helping a handful of people create a six-figure income. If you help 6 people create a six-figure income, you are here. That's how we break it down. This is not a sole person doing it on their own. It's about a group effort. So when you get to that level, Zinzino rewards you by giving you a certain amount of stock, shares, okay? And we see these big figures, we think, wow, okay, there's 4 million in total of shares. Wow, my God, that's kind of mind-blowing levels of money, just talking about 4 million in the first place. But I want to give you the reality of, we did 200 million last year. We're on our way to being a €1 billion company in the next 3 to 4 years. What do we think that's going to do for our share price? Do you think our share price is going to go up? Yeah. Or down? Up, right? So if it took you the next few years to really focus on creating widespread distribution and helping the closest people to you, people that you like, get to this position of crown, or even just helping a few people really get safe their pension options. That's going to catapult you up to president, but let's say it takes you a few years, because again, the time's going to pass anyway, we know that. If you're then awarded 200,000 in shares, and our share price keeps on going up, our share price is now 18 euros per share. Our founder, Orion Sala, wants our dividend payout to be the same as our share price currently. Or even if it takes 10 years to achieve that, the reality, and again, I'm not going to be breaking down these numbers and going deep into maths here, but that actually means that per year your dividend payout is going to be 200,000 euros alone. Who would like that? Yeah. That means you don't even have to touch your 40 to 50 grand a month from your organisation. You're starting to see why we've got the caliber of people coming in. You know, this isn't, you know, nothing against any other companies. Other companies don't have this. So there's a real urgency here. There's a real need for us to understand what we actually have our hands on. Now, I hope you guys leave this room, and if you're not enrolled in this business yet, speak to the person who brought you here and enroll yourself as fast as you possibly can before this day is even over, because we are moving. People are moving up here. People are breaking records all the time. The time that it's taken other people to get here, people are going to be doing that in a fraction of the time now. When we've got the awareness, we've got 1.3 million tests in our database. Excited about this?
Yeah.
Imagine if you then had 4 million euros, or even let's not even get too crazy. Let's just look at a league president, and you have 500,000 in shares. You know, that's then 500,000 roughly that you're going to be getting paid in. Now, as we grow past that 10-year, you know, period that we're thinking of, that I'm just giving you the example of today, and we keep on going, that payout of those dividends is only ever going to increase. So this is building a wall of financial security around your entire family for generations to come. You know, a lot of you guys in here are parents, guys, women. This is a legacy business. You can will this to your children. You know, you're not leaving them an asset which is going to depreciate. I mean, if you have a house or an asset like that you can leave them, absolutely fantastic. I mean, you know, it's difficult to get on the property market now, right? Property ladder. But imagine if you can leave them a legacy of an income stream.
Yeah.
Well, that hits differently, doesn't it? You know, so that's something that I really want you all to really kind of understand. And the other thing that I want to share, just before we sort of close out and we speak to a few other people who have been absolutely acing this business, is I want to ask you all if AI is threatening your current business or your current job, because it's not going anywhere. And if I was still a lawyer, I'd be really concerned about what AI was going to do for my job, because I wouldn't be thinking, oh my gosh, it's fantastic, it's going to help me so much. I'd be thinking, it can now write a contract for me and it's free. You know, so start thinking about, you know, accountants. You know, that's an industry totally under threat. So are lawyers. So are copywriters. So are nutritional plans. All of this is going to be things that can be written very, very cleverly by AI. It's time to start to look at a backup plan. You don't wait until you need a backup plan. Start to understand it now. And I know that, you know, as we look from, you know, an economy point of view and you know, where we've come from, of course, we've had the agricultural era that was then very quickly taken over by the industrial era. All of a sudden we had 100 people in a field. That was all removed, and suddenly a tractor could do what 100 people did by one person driving it. So all of those jobs went, and what a 1,000-acre estate could produce, that was then being produced in a you know, a fairly small factory, the same amount of produce. We're now moving into the digital era, and you guys have got to be ready for it. Otherwise, you're going to be left behind. But this company allows you to be ready for it, because one thing that we know about preparing for the digital era is that you need to have a strong personal brand, and you need to link it with an elegant and scalable business model. And we think that's what we have.
Yes.
Yes. So it's about being prepared, it's about being intelligent, about being switched on, but actually taking control over your status quo and challenging that, actually. You know, if you're told the information and you're shared that, we've got more access to information now than ever before, haven't we? It's then only down to us to actually act on that. So it's our responsibility to get ahead of the game and start to look at what this company is doing. So what is the solution? When when we reflect on everything that I said before and what I was looking for and how impressive the offering is, number 5 is your own personal timing. Because we can give you all of these figures, and only some of you are going to leave this room and act on it. But I think that if you don't act on it, in a year from now, you're really going to kick yourself for doing that, or for not doing that, you know? And so your own personal timing is everything. We can give you everything on a plate, but you've got to be ready to make the change that you need to make. And so, I say this all the time, I say this to my team, the time's going to pass anyway, you know? Let's all come together and start to make those little tiny changes. You know, network marketing is such a fascinating industry. There was a few of us, not as a massive number, but when I look at me, there was one of me doing 90 hours a week. This industry isn't that. This is lots of us doing a tiny little bit. Do you think we could all find a lot of people just to do a tiny little bit? Because nothing that you've seen here is going to be more hard or more difficult to understand than the job that you're currently doing. There's nothing difficult here compared to being a lawyer. There's nothing difficult here compared to being an accountant or a nutritionist or running your own company. But we are so conditioned to shrink our lifestyle to fit the level of income that we have, aren't we? And so what network marketing does is it flips the script on that. It encourages you to think about the level of lifestyle that you would like to have, and therefore the size of the income that you need to create that lifestyle. So let's all agree to not be stuck in this, you know, old-fashioned, archaic system where we just have to go and have a job and that everything's going to be okay, because it isn't okay. We've now seen that. You know, we've got an opportunity for you to really take control over your lives now, guys, and I really hope that you guys all grasp that. So we heard from Sue earlier, who gave us some incredible product testimonials, so I'm sure you guys were all really inspired by that. It's going to be my job to also share with you some business testimonials. And so I'm very excited to welcome up, first of all, a very, very dear friend of mine, Shrimmy, who has built the most beautiful global business. You know, we are shipping now to over 100 different countries. How cool is that? You know, that's now leverage if you're waking up in the morning when another company has been awake whilst you go to sleep to commissions in your account. And so Shrimmy's going to be the perfect person to give you an idea of exactly how to create that. So Shrimmy.
Wow, what an incredible number of speakers you've heard from. Is anybody excited in the room? Right? Okay, so I had tears pouring down my face listening to some of those stories, and I thought to myself, if every person here, just this gathering of women, were to go out there and share this story with one person, we would already impact a few. But imagine if we shared it with 10, there's 50 of us here. That's 500 people we would impact. Do you know the number one reason why people don't succeed in business? Particularly in this industry, it's the fear of rejection. It is not education, it's not skill, it's not expertise, it's not education, it's not experience. It is a fear of rejection or a lack of confidence, a poor mindset. You can do a Google search or an AI search. What is the number one reason why people fail in direct selling? It is a poor mindset. So, you know, when I think of myself and why is it that this amazing business has been successful, there's a whole host of reasons. But I didn't go looking for the direct selling industry. I come from a corporate background, and the 5th of December 2007 was the day that changed my life. I had promised my son, who was 5 years old back then, that I would attend his Christmas concert. I was a senior executive on the board of directors of a global company living in Australia. And I had missed all of the milestones. First word, first step, first day at nursery, I'd missed all of that. And so I promised him I would be there at his first Christmas concert. And 3 days prior to that, I had to fly to New Zealand because we had an emergency. All the other directors, who were men, were not able to go. So I flew to New Zealand, and unfortunately, I couldn't get a flight back in time. So I rang him from Auckland Airport. And I said, sweetheart, I'm sorry, but I won't be able to be there at the concert. And he was only 5. And he said, that's okay, Mama. You never come. something different. I am going to find a way in which I can have some time with my kids, but generate a significant income. So I rang my husband at the time and I said, this is what I'm going to do. And he said, great, if you can stay at home and generate a $200,000 income. Go right ahead. So I came back to Sydney and I started looking, and I had never heard of direct selling, and somehow, thank God, somebody found me and said, hey, there's an opportunity. I got started in that business, and it was, Sarah said it, I was selling lipsticks. So I quit a $200,000 corporate job to start selling lipsticks. And everybody in my world, including my father, said, you went to Cambridge University and you have a master's in economics and you're now selling lipsticks. What is this? So there was a massive fear of rejection. But I realized that I did not want to spend 16 hours a day, 90 hours a week, working for someone else when I had the talent to do this myself. So there was a fear of rejection. I got rejected, I got laughed at, all of that happened. But I realized that this is what I wanted to build. And so I also had to bring in the income quickly, because my husband at the time was a full-time parent. There was no income coming from him. So I started doing this direct selling thing on the side, and when you work 90 hours, exactly like Sarah said, there is no time to build. So I quit the corporate job, focused on this. Within 12 months, that grew to the top position. I was number 3 in the whole country. By the time I moved away from that business, I had over 1,200 consultants, turning over a significant amount. I moved into the second industry in direct selling. Again, within 2 years, I got to the second top position. That business, when I left it last year, was turning over 2.6 million annually. How do you build these businesses quickly? You have to overcome that fear of rejection. You have to build the confidence in yourself. And nobody is going to build it for you. It has got to come from you. So the reason I started in this amazing business 12 months ago is because I had arrived in the UK, so I left Australia, came to the UK January last year, and my goal, my plan was to build this enormous empire in Europe with the company that I was with before. And so I gave up everything in Australia, moved here, ready to go, and on the 25th of January, they pulled the plug from under my feet and said, we've closed, we've gone. What did Sarah say about privately owned American companies versus publicly owned European ones? I was with a privately owned American company. And said, they're gone. They're no longer in the UK, so Shrimi's opportunity to build what I had thought was a legacy for my children was gone. And I thank God, because that was the best thing that happened to me. Because, as Sue mentioned, my husband is a lead cardiologist at Guy's and St Thomas's Hospital in London. And he sees firsthand the trauma that families go through when a loved one is rushed through emergency with no prior symptoms and they have a massive heart attack. The difference is that in the last few years, we're noticing that those people are becoming younger and younger. He was on call about 3 months ago. He got called out 3 times. The first was a 40-year-old, the second was 47, the third was 52. Huge heart attacks. Now, I realized that what we hold in the palm of our hands with this amazing blood test is the ability to significantly impact not just an individual life, but to impact public health across the globe. That is what you and I have the opportunity to do. You and I, as everyday mums, as everyday grandmoms, as everyday wives, sisters, sister-in-laws, cousins, girlfriends, that is what you and I can partner with each other to do. And the reality is, you might not be a business person. You might have no intention of running a business, but would you like an extra $5,000 in your bank account?
Amen.
Because all you have to do is talk to your sister, your neighbor, your sister-in-law, your girlfriend, over a glass of bubbly if you have to. I'm all good with that. But talk to them and say, hey, if there was a test you could take, would you take it? Because I promise you, that conversation, that building of relationships is going to change somebody's life. And when you touch them, you touch another 10 people and another 10 people. So I got started in this in February last year. And I knew nothing about omega-3, omega-6. I was not a particularly healthy person. My husband, God bless him, eats fish 5 times a week, is super healthy, cycles like a maniac. And so he kept saying to me, you've got to take your health seriously. And so started the journey, got to the position of platinum within 4 months, diamond within about 8. And again, it came down to having that confidence, removing the fear of rejection. I'm going to give you 4 tips. Everybody ready for 4 tips?
Yes.
How to build confidence. Number 1. And this is completely irrelevant to whether you are thinking of doing a business or not. Number 1, just be grateful that you're in this room today and you've heard the signs. You've heard something that could potentially not just change your life, but your entire community. So be grateful that you have an opportunity, and do not despise the day of small beginnings. That's in Zechariah in the Bible. It doesn't matter whether you're just one person, or you have just one team member, or just one customer. You're starting today. It's the 18th of May. It's a new day. So don't despise the fact that you have a small thing. Start today, but be grateful. Number 2, build your belief system. Now with my team, I have a big team in Australia, we have just launched something called the 6 a.m. Club. Does anybody know Robin Sharma? Okay, he has a book called 5 a.m. Because 5 a.m. is too early. So we're going to 6 a.m. So at 6 o'clock every morning, this is coming for the next 10 days, we're jumping onto a WhatsApp, we're watching something on the Zinzino app, we are motivating ourselves on going and talking to one more person. 6 a.m. Australia is 10 p.m. here, 9 p.m. here in the UK. Now, if any of you girls want to join the 6 a.m. club in Australia, you're welcome to join with me. That's 9 p.m. in the UK. Right? What are we doing? We're watching something, we're reading something, we're deciding whose life can we change? Who's the one more person we can talk to? So build your belief system. Get onto the Zinzino app, watch another video, learn about the product, talk to somebody, gather with a bunch of girls, reach out to leaders, and just say, I want to build my belief. How can I do that? But that has to be proactive, it has to come from you. Number 3, make a plan. A plan is not a dream, it's not a wish, it's a plan. Anybody use Google Maps to come here today? Yeah? The thing with Google is that those very, very clever people at Google have written algorithms to help you to get from A to B. You have to put in the destination, otherwise you're running around in circles. It's the same with Zinzino. Those clever people at Zinzino have written you a compensation plan to get from A to B. You have to put in the destination. You have to say, I'm going to platinum via executive. And that will give you a map, a roadmap on how to get to platinum, how to get to diamond, how to get to crown. But you need a plan. And you need to tell somebody, this is my plan. I want to earn this much money by this day. That's a plan. I want to become wealthy is not a plan. That's a wish. It's a dream. Put a date and time on it and decide how much money you want. And finally, be accountable. Otherwise, who are you planning with? Who are you telling? I told my children from the time they were this size, you pick any university you want in the world and mother will pay for it. Because my parents very kindly did everything they could to send me. They couldn't send me to Cambridge, I had to get a scholarship for that, but they paid for my accommodation. So I told my children, you know what, you pick any university in the world and I will look after the costs. Which they did. My son's in Amsterdam studying engineering, my daughter is here in Durham studying psychology. But as an Australian parent, her school fees are £5,500 a month. Now, I had to deliver that. That's what I offered. I said I would do it. I made myself accountable. That's the money I have to generate. So when you have a plan, tell somebody, this is what I'm going to do. It is incredibly scary, but it will make you get out there and do what you have to do. I hope that was useful. This is the most incredible company.
Yeah.
You just keep getting better and better these speakers, don't they? So I'm going to bring up one more for you. You guys have seen a little bit of